waiting tables. We sail across the ocean to sell smiles and shine tiles. Bored girls with bottomless eyes make violent love to shiny pose under dim lights and blue windows. Before woozy audiences, flipping dollar bills, whispering erotica. Our innocence died at sea when we dared to take the dreaded pilgrimage to the promised land. Pride and sound manners either blew in the tempest or got lost in the frost, leaving only skin and bones. Our forefathers were victims of the trade, forced on board to toil abroad. But we resigned to partake of the trade. Hard work is a long-suffering spirit that refuses to be buried in the furrows of time. So we sweep the electric avenues by day and wait tables at night. The extended family has to eat. My name is Wesley MACHESO. I'm from Malawi. So I'm a writer, and I also teach literature and creative writing at the University of Malawi. So these are creative writing students that I teach undergraduate students. So we have, I think, just a single course in creative writing. It's more introduction to creative writing, which comes at third year. Sometimes, you get a very exciting group, students who are willing to learn how to write. And sometimes it's disappointing because, it has not been a culture, this writing in Malawi. So you find your students and you ask them, okay, what have you written before? Nothing. What have you read before? Have you read a short story before? And they'll be like, so to get started at that point, it's not easy, but it's exciting. And I think going forward, we have to do more so that this becomes part of the culture and it's something that is ingrained. The best thing about being a writer in Malawi is that, you have a huge repository from which you can draw inspiration. It's a rich culture. It's a place full of stories, and storytelling is part of our tradition. So you can really be able to tell a lot of stories if you are willing to. Yeah, so the worst thing is that there are no opportunities, especially for publishing. Visibility is a big problem. So there are no publishing places really interested in fiction or poetry. And there's very little support from the state or the government. So it's a big challenge. Yes, I think my educational background shaped my writing a lot. Yeah, because I mostly studied in Malawi. I did my first degree in literature and philosophy. And then I did my master's degree in literature. And then I went on to do my PhD in South Africa in literature as well. So it has always been literature. It exposed me to a lot of reading, a lot of writers. And I read a lot because you can't write if you don't read. So that background has really exposed me. But even before that, the informal education itself at home, because I grew up around books, my parents used to read a lot, so it was books all over. So I read from a very early age, and I started writing, I think, to myself and for myself when I was in high school, and I never showed anyone, of course. So I think both formal and informal education that I got at home really inspired me and got me where I am today, if I'm anywhere, really. And I think you can't speak of literature or good literature without philosophy. So most of the brilliant works that I admire are maybe surrealist, magical realism, existentialism. When you blend all these into creative work, it becomes richer. So I think, yeah, especially in places like Malawi, where there are not so many opportunities and avenues which writers can utilize, the state has to support the arts, and especially literature. The problem that I've seen is that in my country, for example, we have the Ministry of Arts and Culture and this, but when they talk about the arts, they're talking about music. They're talking about, these performing arts, it's show business. Literature is often on the sidelines. And I think we have to realize and recognize that literature is the benchmark for most of the art forms. And they have to support literature, especially through creating an enabling environment, publishing, reading and writing, because we don't even have public libraries, for example. I think we only have one in Blantyre, another in Zuzu and in Lilongwe, the major cities. But if you go to those libraries, you see that they don't have resources. So they're just libraries, the buildings, but there's no library. And actually maybe putting some money into the publishing industry so that it's not only about textbooks, but it's also about art for art's sake. So I think if the government did that, it would be good. It would be good to have festivals, but these are things that happen today and they are gone. But we need something that will stay on the ground. Yeah, several authors have influenced my work. Yeah, but particularly I can mention maybe two or three. I love poetry, and I think, I admire how poets, like good poets, use language. So there is a poet like Wilson Shire, the Somali poet. She's very good. So she knows how to use her words. And sometimes you read her and you're like, if only I could like this, I could write like this. So there's her. And then there is, as I said, that I love how some authors fuse philosophy into literature. An author like Haruki Murakami, the Japanese, yeah, I love his work. And it's very inspiring how he bends reality and then takes you somewhere else. It's something that I admire a lot. Yeah, and then there's this American author, Frank McCourt. So Frank McCourt, I love his use of humor. So you read a book like Angela's Ashes. It's just amazing how he tells a sad story, but in a very humorous way. So it's a skill that one has to admire. Yeah, and then of course there is Achebe. So, the African storytelling tradition has a lot to do with orality. So the way Achebe taps from oral forms and fuses into its, art, it's just amazing. Okay, so in Iowa, while here, I took this opportunity to complete my manuscript, my first full-length novel. And luckily and gladly I did. I completed the first draft. Yeah, so up to about 80,000 words or so. It was an amazing experience. I had the space to work, which I really don't have at home. So, yeah, and that manuscript is tentatively titled The Goddess of Lost Things. It's a retelling of the Malawian history from myth and historical events. So it's a Brent, and I fictionalized that. And what really I found fascinating with the USA is, how this one country has so many different faces. You go to this place, people are doing different things. You go to this place, there's another culture altogether. You come to Iowa, it's all easy, and just rolling in the streets, and a car can stop for you. You go to New York, a car can hit you anytime. So it's amazing, different parts of the country, different people, but very amazing. I should say that it was a pleasure being here, and I'm very grateful that I was given this opportunity. Yeah, and I look forward to maybe taking advantage of this chance I had to advance myself and also others. I don't know if the IWP is always in touch with its alumni, because there are alumni who have done great things out there, but is there any way that maybe the program can also reach out to other writers who may not have the opportunity to come here, maybe through its alumni? Just exposure about writing, it's a big thing. For example, in Malawi, there are actually people who don't know what writing is all about, who don't know what publishing is, who don't know what this is and that is. So if there can be, maybe through the same embassies or in whatever form, outreaches in these countries, just these small things that can make a big difference, I think it would be something that can go a long way.